we don't recognize the wins or the successes.
Right.
Yes.
And we continue to doubt ourselves a lot of times. The first thing we say to ourselves is, oh, but it wasn't enough.
What this is making me realize now is that the animation Big Mouth and by extension Human Resources left one hormone monster out of it, which is perfectionism. We get a depression kitty. We get like the anxiety mosquitoes.
We get the shame wizard.
Where we get the shame wizard. Why don't we have the perfectionist pony?
The perfectionist pony.
Where's the perfectionist pony? You know what I mean? We've got appropriate elevator jazz above our head. Mm-hmm. So if our listeners can hear the plinky plunky music of waiting room jazz, that was not our choice, but it is what we are left with. I'm here with my co-host, Aaron Smith. Give us a wave.
Hello.
My name is Stephen Tonti. This is the Attention Different podcast. And today we are thrilled to welcome Rachel Ambrose.
Hello.
Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Awesome. Rachel's a certified ADHD life coach who brings both ADHD and life coach, a certified ADHD and life coach who brings both professional expertise and deeply personal insight to the world of neurodivergent coaching. Rachel is the founder of Porchlight Coaching, where she works with clients to build their favorite kind of life while embracing their neurodivergent strengths. What makes Rachel's approach unique is her commitment to peer support and shared lived-in experience. Diagnosed with ADHD in 2016 and self-diagnosed with autism in 2021, Rachel coaches from a place of genuine understanding. She holds both ADDCA certification as an ADHD and life coach and the prestigious CACP credential from the Professional Association of ADHD Coaches, which she earned in 2023.
Did.
As someone who describes herself as queer, non-binary, polyamorous, and geeky, sounds a little bit like me.
Yeah.
Rachel understands what it means to feel unseen by traditional mental health approaches. Her inclusive practice prioritizes clients from BIPOC, AAPI, and queer communities. She approaches coaching from an intersectional perspective that recognizes how various identities and circumstances impact neurodiversity. Mm-hmm. Rachel, welcome to the show. We're so excited to dive into your insights on adult ADHD and neurodivergent coaching.
I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Aaron, do you have anything to add on to that or just wow?
No, we're happy to have you here. So yeah, I'm excited to hear kind of a unique perspective here on adulting with ADHD from a different lens, right? Than I think we've heard on this show previously. So I think, your unique background, the clients you work with, I think adulting shows up in different ways. So that's kind of what we're going to dive into today is what that's like across communities out there, right? That don't always get the spotlight and don't always get talked about.
Definitely. Another way to put it is that extra layer, those extra layers, right? Yeah. On top of the thing that we're already doing, we add on more layers of complication, maybe even disenfranchisement or stigmatization or misunderstanding. And this is going to be one of those conversations, folks,
and
right?
multiple layers of masking, right? Like, showing up, how you're showing up at work, at home, in relationships, and all of the complications there.
Already being in person, by the way, I'm feeling the yas. Already the first improvement of being in person is I can feel the yas. Mm-hmm. So the first question, actually, Aaron gave us the buzzword that I'm going to segue off of, which is ADHD adulting.
Yes.
Okay. For our listeners, I'm going to start in on this with Rachel. It's something that we hear a lot about, but might not fully understand. When we talk about ADHD adulting, what exactly does that mean to you? How would you define it? And what makes it different from what neurotypical folks experience when they're just, regular adulting?
Oof. Okay. So this is a very personal question to me at this particular moment in my life, and I will tell you why.
I can't wait.
So because ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disability, and neurodevelopmental disabilities, including ADHD, make our brains develop at a rate that is, on average, about a third slower than our neurotypical counterparts. It means that even though I am in my late 30s at this moment in time, in terms of brain development, I basically may as well have just entered my 30s. And so that makes our particular experience of where we are in terms of, oh my God, why don't I have my life figured out right now? Even more of a bit of a gauntlet than it typically would for the neurotypical person. And when you factor in we're living under late stage capitalism, we are living in the country that we are currently living in. It compounds and compounds. And it really makes it difficult for us to even figure out what our standards of adulting should even be. Because a lot of times we are just kind of told like, hey, go to college, get a job, get married. It's this life escalator that unless we have the privilege and the ability to take a step back and say, well, wait a minute, where am I going? Like, what does adulting mean to me? What do I actually want my life to look like? And if we don't have folks in our lives who are game to sit down and have those conversations with us and to help us see things in a different way, then sometimes we can arrive in our mid to late 30s as though we booked a trip that was a complete surprise to us and we have no idea how we have gotten to this place. Or like, wait a minute, how did I get here?
That's a great one.
What is happening? Wait, okay, so I got on that flight and then I got connected to that train and now I'm here. Wait, where is here? Do I want to be here anymore? What if I don't?
Oh, that's such a good metaphor. That's so exacting.
At some point in our lives, we kind of realize, we look back and we're like, how much am I living my life based on others' expectations, or how much am I intentionally living it for myself?
Exactly. That's exactly.
That line up?
Yes, it does. So for me personally, I had the, I'll call it the privilege, but at the time it felt like the relative, punishment to a degree of meeting some folks who asked me those questions about a year and a half ago. And they were like, hey, like, are you really cool with like how your life is? I mean, like, your life is fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, but is it really what you want? And like, sit with that for a second and consider, is this what you really want? And if it's not, consider that you have the privilege of other options and figuring out how you would like it to look. And so that's why I divorced my husband earlier this year and consequently moved to New Orleans because I got asked those questions and I sat down with myself and I was like, okay, well, what are the other options? Like what even is out there? That I could potentially get into, like, what am I really passionate about? Where are my strengths? Like, how do I feel best, like, loved and taken care of and seen? And, there's so many different answers to that question, depending on who you are, what your background is, what your values are.
What was the answer for you when you asked yourself?
That was my next question. Yeah. And also, like, to that point, it sounds like, not reaching inappropriately too deep, but I do hear a timeline. Yes. And on the timeline, I hear that because did Porch Light come before the divorce? Like, were you a coach before? So the coaching was happening.
The coaching was happening. Yeah.
There's been a bigger pivot, a bigger choice, a new pivot, and I agree with
evolution.
An evolution since then.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So go on.
Yeah. And so I came down here. It was like, okay, I'm open to what that might look like. And so I came down here, I stayed with now someone that I'm no longer in contact with, but at the time, very, very good friends, very transformational person in my life. And I'll never forget the absolute moment that I realized, oh crap, the pivot needs to happen. The pivot is already happening. My friend made me, I've told you this story before. Stephen.
Yeah, I remember. No, please. I love it though.
So I stayed down here for a week, loved it. The night before I left, my friends made me a cup of tea. And I love tea. I have good taste in tea. I'm big into cocktails and, flavor profiles and things like that. Food is a hyperfixation for me. And they made me this beautiful cup of tea that included things that I had pointed out to them, like over the week that we had spent together. Like I was like, oh man, like I love bourbon vanilla extract, like specifically Mexican bourbon vanilla extract. I love orange. I love cinnamon. I love that one specific black tea that you have. And they paid attention to all of that. The night before I left, they made me this cup of tea that had everything in it that I had mentioned but would never have thought to specifically ask for. And I remember sitting alone in their living room with this cup of tea and like looking down at it. And even the way that they had like displayed it, they had made like an orange crescent rind in the tea. And like there was a little like mint garnish, which I also love. And I was like, shit. Okay. So like this is the standard now. This is the level. Okay. This is the level at which I can be seen and loved. And this is what it feels like for people to care about me in a way that my soul really recognizes as being cared about.
Hey, Stephen here. Sorry to interrupt. We just wanted to take a brief moment to tell you about this week's sponsor. At Attention Different, our mission is simple. Offer ADHD adults proven practical strategies for living a more balanced, fulfilled ADHD life. And that is why we are thrilled to offer our latest course, Thriving with Adult ADHD. While other courses might focus on the pain and struggle of being an adult with ADHD, and we do not want to minimize that, this course is designed around accessible, relevant, and applicable techniques that address the most common challenges facing ADHD adults. Inside Thriving with Adult ADHD, you will learn how to create time management systems that are realistic and effective, better understand your adult ADHD and gain clarity about how your brain works, regulate your emotions by developing strategies to manage your emotional ups and downs. Thriving with Adult ADHD features 2 hours of on-demand video, 10 downloadable resources, lifetime access to the material, and a satisfaction guarantee. Go to attentiondifferent.com/thriving to sign up now. That's attentiondifferent.com/thriving to sign up now. Hey, thanks for the quick break. Now back to the interview. If I may for a second, I want to capture that thought, because actually, and you know this. Now, she's told the story that I already know, but you already know this. Yes. And you knew it the moment you moved here to visit it for that week, and it hit you.
Yep.
This is for our listeners. We are in New Orleans right now, Rachel and I. Aaron is riversiding in, is video chatting in from Colorado. But I want to poke a little bit at New Orleans and hopefully copy paste this feeling over to your specific, like the intersection of identity and neurodivergence.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you came to a place that we locals here refer to as a divine mother, right? New Orleans has a very maternal energy, and we who are from here usually speak about her in that way.
Her as in, New Orleans, the entity.
Yes, who invites her own home. And when we say her own, we tend to, and correct me if I'm wrong, or I don't put words in your mouth, but we tend to be talking about the island of misfit toys.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The freaks, the geeks, the nerds, the super hosts, and everything you just described to me. I am not mincing words for our listeners. Word for word, I have heard from no fewer than 4 other people who moved here this year. There is a feeling of responsibility that the entire city carries for its own people, and it is very much a he, she, they who can host the greatest party.
Yes, absolutely.
And what is a great host? A deeply considerate person, right? The city is very considerate. I'm not shocked that you had a tea brewed for you exactly with the flavor profiles you had said out loud offhand were things that you loved.
Yep.
They put 2 and 2 together and served you that tea.
Yes.
That is New Orleans.
Yes.
I was given a bag of coffee beans at the end of a performance last week. It was specifically the brand that I like, and like the roaster, and specifically the flavor from a friend. And it was a bag of coffee beans.
Yeah.
It wasn't a trophy.
Right.
I was almost moved to tears.
Yes.
I was reminded in a second, like, I didn't ask that person for that flavor, but they remembered it and brought it to the Actors Apothecary.
Yes.
With the intention of giving me that thing that I love. And also they had noticed it was missing in my house. So you felt called here, and I, knowing you, feel very well hosted by you whenever I'm in your space.
Oh my gosh, I so appreciate that.
Well, I told you when you got here, it's your city, girl. I mean, you dress like it, but you also embody the spirit of it. So I want to ask a little chicken or an egg, right? You are here. I'm sure you're drinking from that.
Yes.
But I also feel like you carried that with you. So on the level of intersection of identity and neurodiversity.
Yes.
How do you bring that NOLA mother, that divine maternal, that NOLA energy into your coaching?
I love that question.
Yeah.
So it's just like you said. There's that consideration for the person. There's that ego check that you have to make at the door as a coach, because it's not about you. And I say this to my clients all the time. I say, I am here for you, and like whatever you need or need to get out of a session, that's what I'm here to provide. Like, I have no horse in this race. I am considerate first of your wants and needs, and wherever you show up in a given session, at the top, like, that is where we'll start. I have no agenda. And the lack of preconceived notion, like, this city will take every single preconceived notion that you have inside of you and just shove it out the window. And if you don't do that, you will not have a good time here. Because if you come in and sort of project all of these expectations, and hello, this is the segue back into the ADHD part of things, the adulting with ADHD. If you rely on your projections and assumptions of New Orleans, and if you rely on your projections and assumptions of what adulting with neurodiversity is, you will have this exact same kind of bad time.
What are some of those assumptions you hear from clients that you think are misaligned and misinformed?
Yeah.
The shoulding on yourself. Don't should on yourself, y'all. If you come into the world and, we all have it. We all have the inner critic, the inner capitalist, the inner straight guy in our head who is like, like golden retriever, 2.5 kids, a 20-year career and a watch at the end of it. We pick those expectations up as we go. And for a lot of us, like, it's like wearing clothes that don't fit properly, and we are just uncomfortable all the time, but we don't really understand why. When you apply that to life in general, it's like, okay, like, how do we get you into clothes that fit better? What would it look like for you to be truly comfortable in your own skin, in your day-to-day life? That is important. And it's honestly the kind of thing, it's similar to masking. Stephen, as you know, there's masking in the neurodivergent community that we are all very familiar with, and there is New Orleanian masking.
What? You mean wearing masks and parading in secret?
Yes.
Couldn't be this city.
Couldn't be. Who would do such a thing in New Orleans? And I think, like, in terms of neurodivergent masking, it's almost always talked about as a negative thing. As something that takes a lot of excess energy from us, as something that can lead to high levels of burnout and emotional fatigue, and us just not having a very good time in our day-to-day existence. And I think when we bring in the metaphor of New Orleanian masking, which is how a lot of people, especially when Mardi Gras was first started, you could be anything that you wanted on Mardi Gras Day. That was one of the only times where, if you were in the queer community, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, when it was outlawed, when you really couldn't do that kind of thing, even in New Orleans, that was one of the very few days that you could openly be who you were at all times by putting on that mask.
Right.
So a mask that helps you, where you're almost empowered to be more of a version of yourself or express yourself in different ways. The city, New Orleans, allows you to do that, to step outside of that comfort zone, to put on a personality, a version of yourself that you may not be able to do in everyday, life.
Correct.
But then there's this other side of, like, unhealthy, disempowering masking that we do in other kinds of social contexts.
Yeah, the ironies abound, actually, and even to, like, the name of your company, Porch Light Coaching. I mean, like, in New York we stoop sit, in New Orleans you porch sit.
Correct.
Right? You were meant to be here, lady. So, like, I'm with Aaron on this. There's such a beautiful dichotomy with masking in this city. And it's not the only city in the world, but in this city, we both put on the mask to feel free. We also identify when people are wearing a mask that constricts them,
right,
and makes them imprisoned behind the mask. So I want to talk a bit about that with that BIPOC, AAPI, queer, et cetera, right? So let's get in it. Let's talk about it. We've got multiple layers in your practice of sometimes self-inflicted masking, imprisonment, often though more societal, right? So we do live in New Orleans, which is in Louisiana, which is in the South, as many of you listening know. Shit be kind of weird down here.
It does. It does.
So dive in wherever comfortable, but bring us some of those colors, flavors, textures, tastes, smells, et cetera, sounds of working down here amongst your queer, BIPOC, AAPI, et cetera, people who are minority groups, fringe groups, disenfranchised groups, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, I think, working down here in the South in a way that includes people who traditionally have not felt served by the ADHD community, the neurodivergent community. That is very, very important work that needs to happen more. I think also in the whole South of it all, there's so many layers, a lot of which I can't speak on because I'm white, and it's not really my context or particular space to speak on. But if it's, I like to take my own privilege as a white, femme passing person and use it however I can to uplift those folks and to center those folks who don't have the same level of privilege that I do. And like, that is deeply important to me. I cut my teeth on, when the Black Lives Matter movement first came about in 2015, 2016 with the murder of Trayvon Martin, and Tamir Rice and Sandra Bland and all those folks. That was really what radicalized me towards that work and recognizing my own white privilege and my own passing privilege. And in a city like New Orleans, where there's that famous quote about how everything you love about New Orleans is because of Black folks. It's like, well, like, you're here. Your job as to be a quote unquote good transplant is to be a considerate host, to be a considerate guest. And that is kind of the starting point for how I give back to this city that kind of gave me a new lease on life.
We love that. Hey. I'm going to describe it this way, but there's a better way to describe it. You have a natural ability to tee up something that sounds more nonchalant than it is. And then at the very last like the last few words of the sentence hit me with like poetry. It's like, it'll be like, this sentence is a card carrying classic sentence. And then at the end, you'll say just like 5 words together strung perfectly. I'm like, oh, wow. Oh, deeply felt. It's such a cool coaching move. I know Aaron does it too. You're both guilty of this shit.
We're good at the clincher. We have
the clincher.
To be.
You've got the clincher. You know what I mean? Yeah. That oomph at the end of the sentence.
Yeah, the kicker.
Aaron, has this elucidated a response? Do you feel connection to this?
I guess like what I was reacting to, I think there's a certain amount of responsibility that people have who have different degrees of privilege, right? Whether that's male privilege, straight privilege, whether that's privilege of means economically, whether that's, all these different layers of privilege, right? And when we bring ourselves into spaces that have historical context and that are built on the backs of people that have been exploited, right? And misappropriated over the years, we have a responsibility to understand those contexts and to pay homage to those folks, right? Who built the very fabric of that community, right? The music, the architecture, and then still live there, right? And are still being oppressed in lots of ways, right? And so we need to, especially when it comes to ADHD coaching too, and even part of the reason we do this podcast is to elevate some of those stories and those voices. And I know that you may not be able to speak specifically from your own perspective, but do you have maybe like an anecdote or a client or something that you could talk about and say, what are some of their unique adulting struggles that there's an intersection there with their identity, their marginalized status in society?
So I've had tons of clients who have come to me who are like multiply marginalized, and they've really, it's not only the ADHD, whatever executive dysfunction, neurodivergent brain issue they're struggling with. But then it's like, how is this, if I make this change, if I make this shift, how is it going to be received by my family? Or by, the culture and context in which I find myself. I think a lot of times, and I can speak to this a little bit, just from the little bit of a culture shock that I've had adjusting to the South, being raised in the North, the level of like social nicety, and social, acumen that Southerners are raised with that Northerners, not that we're not, but like it's a different level of smoothness and flow. I was at a crawfish boil this spring, and it was really only like my second or third time eating crawfish, and like I had practiced. Like I watched so many YouTube videos on how to properly peel crawfish, because it's a process. It's not natural. And so I was talking to one of the other ladies who was there, who is from here. And I mentioned, oh yeah, this is only my second or third time eating crawfish. And she's like, oh, well, maybe you're a natural. And like we left after a while, and I said to my friend, like, oh man, like, that lady really gassed me up. Like she said, like, oh, like you're a natural eating crawfish. She's like, baby, she was just being nice. And I was like, what? Like, what? And she's like, yeah, like people are just like they're not going to tell you that you're eating crawfish clumsily, because like that would be the height of rudeness. But also you're eating crawfish clumsily. But like, we're not going to tell you that. And I was like, my autism was like, what? I can't trust anyone. And I was like, no, this is not what that is. You're okay. But like, it's just a different level of like, people are going to be nice. And because people are going to be nice, that doesn't always mean that they're going to be the most honest version of themselves. And if you want to live down here, you just have to internalize that and roll with it. And like, take it for what it is, and it's going to be fine.
Ooh, I feel like we just got like I felt like the client in your office for a second right there at the end. Because I feel that felt very natural and colloquial, that rhetoric at the end. Of like, you live in a place, you may not have chosen to be born here or chosen this culture, but you are in this culture.
Yep.
And kind of double underlining that. Like, is it irrational? Is it strange? Certainly, in lots of ways, but like you get a lot of good with the uncomfortable. Yes. So that like, I like that bottom lining something of like, you're not crazy. You are experiencing a total different, like a tonal shift, an intention shift. And there are some things about this city or the city that you live in, the culture you're in, that we need to let go lightly.
Yes.
Not hold on so tightly.
Yes. Yeah, okay, yes. Yeah. And also I think like, as a coach who works with people who have experiences that are different than my own, that lens and perspective really comes in for me, because sometimes people will be talking to me about experiences that like I have never had, nor will I ever have. And I just have to make space for that and listen and not try and empathize so much, but just give them the space that those experiences deserve, and just provide the container for those experiences, whatever they are, to take up the space that they need.
You need to put a light bulb over my head right now, because I just literally had a light bulb moment. Everybody here is high empathy.
Yeah.
But y'all just gave me that like professional inside baseball moment where like there is a distinction to be made, and a really important one, between an empathy moment with a client and a space and compassion moment, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to give, the way you just described it gave me a little light bulb moment. That was great. So like that, I'm definitely the criminal in that space, in that moment. Yeah. I want to hug and coo and warm and be and empathize. Oh my God, me too, right?
Yeah.
That ADHD thing that we do.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm so thankful for that distinction of like, actually in those specific moments, the best thing I can do is not to try and empathize. So like overring. Does that make sense? Like that's news to me, kind of.
I think that we can hold compassion and have a container at the same time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But I think over empathizing, where
that's it. Yeah.
Over empathizing.
Yeah. If we're trying to fix it, right? There's some things that people experience that we cannot fix. And
correct.
Nor should we try to, because it's almost insulting, right? It's like, we're not going to fix racism in this conversation or whatever.
No,
right? We're not going to fix sexism.
My hug is not going to stop you being acted upon in a racist way.
But there's a lot of power in us holding that container in that space of hearing someone else's experience and listening and being with them.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Am I hearing you both right, that it's validating and saying like, this is real, right?
Yeah.
Like I talk about Dr. Becky all the time, but this is real.
Absolutely.
I acknowledge this is real for you. You're telling me a true and heavy thing.
Yes.
That.
Yeah. And also I think a lot of times because we are such empathetic creatures, we really have struggling to not center ourselves in somebody else's pain.
Yeah.
And to just be like, okay, wow, that's incredibly awful. I am so sorry that happened to you. I can't do anything to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And like however you want to move forward from here, having just told me this incredibly intimate, personal, wounding thing is up to you. And I think that is one of the strengths of coaching is it really teaches the coach to ego check themselves, and it allows the client to take up space that perhaps has not been available to them before. Because one of the biggest pieces that my clients often come to me with is like this lack of self-trust, where they don't feel like they can show up for themselves because, they haven't been, they've been pushing off that phone call for like 6 months now that they know would take them 5 minutes. That consistent, like letting themselves down. And so a lot of times folks show up to coaching and they're like, I know that my life needs to change, but like, I don't trust myself to show up and change my life the way that I know that I deserve.
Wow.
Like, I know that I'm getting in my own way, but I don't trust myself to not get in my own way.
Whoa, and motivation killer.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're your own worst enemy, like, how do we work with that? How do we get you past that roadblock? And that's what a lot of my coaching is, whether that is, a lot of times the root is like people pleasing or these expectations that have just gotten baked in over time, over lifetime. And it's like, oh, well, I should be in bed by 10 p.m. Okay. Are you? No. Okay. So right now you're not in bed at 10 p.m. What time do you actually go to bed? Oh, well, around midnight or 1 a.m. Okay, great. That's your baseline. That's your reality right now. Let's work with that. So let's plan, if you want, to have you just plan to be in bed by midnight for the next week and just see what happens. And most of the time they come to me and they're like, actually, I was in bed by, 11:45 one night. And I'm like, that's progress.
Heck yeah.
That's how we do
it.
I
love when you guys get to your seats of power. My brain works in a similar way. Aaron knows this. I think you know this. But like, we had another guest, Kelly Bombs, say something similar to an effective, like she had people come in and they would say, they would explain some very hard thing, right? And she would respond with, okay, but you made it to my office today, right?
Literally, yeah.
And they go, yeah. And she goes, okay, so then you've survived 100% of the things before getting to my office today.
Yes.
And like that for me is similar to this, right? It's like, okay, but you did go to bed before midnight one night, right?
Yeah.
Is that different than last week? Yeah. Then
great.
You've done different.
Right.
You've changed.
Yes.
You've changed in front of me. Those moments for me as a client or as the patient of someone are I can speak for that person in your room a little bit. They're huge. Those are huge epiphany moments.
Yeah.
I can do it. I didn't get in my own.
We don't recognize the wins or the successes.
Right.
Yes.
And we continue to doubt ourselves a lot of times.
Yeah.
We do something, we make a small incremental change. And of course, the first thing we say to ourselves is, oh, but it wasn't enough. Like I should have done it earlier.
Exactly.
I could have done it like before, or I only did it one time, but we said a whole week of this, right? Like, let's recognize and stop for a second. This stuff is hard, and half of it is it's your neurology that's working against you, right? It's not a character flaw. It's not you who are like we blame ourselves. I'm doing something that's shooting myself in the foot. And sometimes that might be true, but a lot of times it's our brain. It's our brain wiring that's working against us, not some intentional thing that we've done. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
What this is making me realize now is that the animation Big Mouth and by extension human resources left one hormone monster out of it, which is perfectionism. We get a depression kitty. We get like the anxiety mosquitoes.
We get the shame wizard.
Where we get the shame wizard. Why don't we have the perfectionist pony?
The perfectionist pony.
Where's the perfectionist pony? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the pressure. That's what I hear a lot from my clients. The pressure people put on themselves. I have to be a certain way. And what is adulting? What is being an adult? Is an adult someone that does this, acts like this, or doesn't do this, right? Does an adult fold their laundry and always put it away? Does an adult do things sequentially? Is an adult someone that utilizes a calendar? Is an adult someone that can go to bed on time and wake up or be on time for a meeting? There's so many things that we say to ourselves that's like, this is what an adult does. And if I'm not doing it, I'm not really an adult.
Correct.
Dude, literally, I want you to take the mic for a while, but I want to add on to this to this is for our listeners. I'm going to be vulnerable for a second. I had this moment last night, Aaron. I said during a small panic attack, I feel so much pressure. Mm-hmm. This is like 11:30, 11:22, like before, but I'm within minutes of slipping into the sheets and passing out. Mm-hmm. But I am having the pressure, and I'm literally saying those words, you guys. Like I to my partner, there's just so much pressure. Yeah. And like your partner being wise in that moment doesn't ask why, it just goes, I love you. I see you. I love you. I see you. Let's get to sleep. But clear, from where is the desperate begging of some people, right? From where it's, from in here, the call is coming from inside the house. Mm-hmm. So talk about that. Yeah. It was that was self-imposed pressure. It is and talk about adulting. The amount of times I self-flagellate with the word adult.
Oh yeah.
Would an adult do this? Was that an adult behavior? Was that an adult choice?
Yep.
So mean, so intense on your own psyche.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and also you're an adult. Like you meet the Webster's dictionary definition of what an adult is. So like, what are you self-flagellating about? Oh, wait, when we say adulting, we actually mean like being responsible, like expectations, societal pressure, societal norms, and that gap that we often feel between where we are and where we perceive ourselves to be, which can be different things, versus what we think we need to be doing. And that can be so pernicious because most of the time it's actually not there. The gap it feels like a million miles apart when in reality it is much smaller.
Totally.
And working with the fact that our perception of our own reality, we can never really entirely see the actual reality of something because we are centering ourselves in our own life experience at all times. And so we are never the most reliable narrator of our lives. And knowing that, it's like, all right, well, let's grab the salt shaker and put a little salt on that panic attack to cleanse it, and then go to sleep, wake up the next morning, and then figure out like, okay, like what caused that panic attack? Yeah. Like, how did you end up in that space being like, oh my God, the pressure is too much? Because like, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
And our brains are constantly trying to give us information on how to live happier, healthier lives. It's just a lot of times because ADHD and irregular attention, we don't necessarily take those cues until something happens where we have a panic attack about something because everything has to be urgent and everything has to be a crisis. And for me, the concept of quote unquote adulting is living life in a way that the chaos is generative instead of destructive.
Yeah, my God, we could unpack that for a while. Wait, can we use that as a sinew, as a string?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you say this on your website, and I do love this. Building your favorite kind of life. I love how you phrase the mission as helping clients build their favorite kind of life. It's such a beautiful way to put it, and it feels different from typical goal-setting language.
Yeah.
Can you expand on what that means to you, how you help someone discover what their favorite kind of life even looks like when they might be struggling with basic daily functioning? I think this is a good sinew for that.
Yes. So a lot of times when you see, goal setting, productivity, self-improvement language, it's live your best life. Okay, but how realistic is that? Like, who among us every day is walking around living our best life? Because
I don't know what either you're talking about. I live my best life every single day. I've never been sad or upset or anxious.
No,
and that
never.
Story I told you was
not
made up.
once.
It was for a friend.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no. So like that's not realistic. It's not compassionate.
No.
And it will ultimately like set you up for failure because it's like, okay, like if you're constantly trying to be the best version of yourself, sometimes you're just going to roll over and be like, oh no, I got a cold. I am no longer the best version. Like it's perfectionism. It's perfectionism wrapped up in self-improvement language. I think the shift to, okay, like what is your favorite kind of life? Like when you imagine your life, what makes you do the mental equivalent of kicking back on a porch with like, your favorite beveragino and just taking a breath, just taking an exhale and feeling very satisfied with how everything is. Maybe not like the best, maybe not like your wedding day or some like massive celebration every day, but what would make you feel like you are in tune with your life and that your life is in tune with you. Yeah. And that's where your favorite kind of life comes from. And that's where we can really mine into what that looks for any individual client.
I'm hearing more intentionality.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I think what I'm picking up on is that like there's a certain amount of baked in suffering of what it is to be an ADHD adult. It's messy, it's chaotic. Yeah. But I really liked the way you talked about that difference of the generative chaos versus the destructive chaos.
Oh, thank you for bringing that back.
Yeah. For me, what I think is like the most powerful thing is to think about where does that suffering come from? Because there's a lot of stuff that, yes, on the outside, there's a lot of things that are hard, right? There's hard stuff. Life is hard.
Life is hard.
Yep.
Life is full of changes and full of suffering in all sorts of ways. And let's say harder for some folks than others, right? Like if you have certain amounts of privilege and means, yes, and other things, you're protected in some ways, or you're shielded from some of those extreme pains, extreme hurts, because you can afford to buy your way out, or you have family support, or you have a community that supports you, or siblings. You have a network and a support system. But I think with the internal kind of stuff, which is a lot of the stuff that we as ADHDers deal with, is this self-imposed pain, this self-imposed hurt. That suffering comes from a different place. I think it exists between the gap of our expectations of what life should be, what I should be doing, and the reality, right? That's where that suffering comes from.
Yeah, Emerson's comparison is the thief of joy. I mean, like directly pulled from, our comparison is the thief of joy, the very unhealthy form of comparing. I agree. Yes. I like this generative chaos thing because, like, if there were a part of my psyche and my spirit that was at war for the greatest amount of time, two parts of it. It would be the part that was taught as a Southern Texan, Louisianan boy, a cis straight white boy, which I am not, but who was taught in a specific Texan kind of way. Yep. There are moments in my life, y'all, where I really like it. Okay. At a famous bachelor party weekend, there were Louisiana boys and Texas boys, and the Texas boys referred to the Louisiana boys as the hooligans. And the Texas boys were on time and put together and clean, et cetera. There's parts of that culture that I actually like and find attractive. Yeah. But I will be one degree more honest. I would say the net was negative. The inculcation that there is a hyper heteronormative homogeneity that you should ascribe to. There is a literal, like, laminated card of 5 boxes that you must check to be an adult. And if you don't check those, then you are a child or feckless or reckless or whatever, right? That was taught to me. And if there is the longest war going on between two sides, two selves, it's that self and the self of me that goes, but wait, isn't ADHD a generative, chaotic neurodivergent? Like you just described something so ordered and so put together and so prescriptive. Your brain ain't that way.
Correct.
In what reality or universe am I going to check off those boxes in the way that the state of Texas and toxic masculinity insisted that I do, right? Like, so I can relate to those people listening, like, and I love this generative chaos idea. I, at 34, am just starting to really let go lightly of that ordered laminated sheet, that metaphor. I'm really starting to invite generative chaos into the space. How do you do that in a practical way?
I think you figure out, because so many of us describe ourselves as chaos gremlins. But I think often we use that term as a way to describe, again, that sort of sense of you arrive to a place and we don't really know how we got here. We don't really know what's going on. We are overstimulated, overwhelmed, undercaffeinated, and we're just like trying to figure shit out, like, by the seat of our pants. And I think like that generative chaos if we can figure out how to harness it, it can be one of our greatest strengths, because it can really lead to us making massive changes, like not only in our own individual lives, but on like a grand scale. When I say the word generative chaos, I think of a really incredible like improv comedy show. That is generative chaos.
Right. Right. Great metaphor. Yeah.
Like,
great illusion.
Like that kind of thing where it's chaos, but it's in a container. And it's sort of like, okay, like this is the structure for the storm, and we are going to create this storm together, and whatever comes up, that's totally fine. It's again going back to that lack of preconceived notion. And then it's like, okay, great. If there are no preconceived notions, then what actually is important? Like if there's no wrong answers, if you can say whatever you want, be whoever you want to be,
so important.
What would that look like? And how do we get you there?
And I think with improv, right, you have to trust yourself enough to know this will be chaotic. I don't know what's coming. I can't control it. I can't control what this other person is going to say or do in the next moment. I'm letting go of that sense of control. But I also am trusting myself enough to know I'm going to roll with those punches and come up with something on the spot that's going to work. It's going to land. Sometimes it won't land, but you'll still roll with it anyways.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I think that attitude is something maybe that it sounds like you kind of work with your clients on is kind of
definitely.
how to roll with it and be lighter with yourself. Like not be so harsh on yourself for every single little thing.
You moved to the city where jazz was born.
Correct.
So you moved to the city where improvisation was born.
Correct.
And to double, triple down on this, she called to you. The mother called you home.
Right. Like, hi, hello, come here.
Yeah. And I love bringing jazz and improv theater into this conversation. And I don't know that I've spent nearly enough time talking about the ADHD brain through the lens of like improv, a moment of improvisation and the power that it takes to pull it off. Right.
Well, and like to your point about self-trust, like let's just like walk the people behind the curtain for a hot second. What happened literally 3 hours ago, Stephen? How did we get here? How are we in person right now, Stephen?
Baby. Yeah. You're actually right. Okay, so as a career producer, if something goes wrong, we pivot. We train ourselves to pivot and to not take it personally and to not at our best day, to not wrap our ego into it, think that it's a personal feeling or I'm broken because this light's not working or this extension cord's not here or this room is booked, right? Like to not take that as an ego death or as a shredding of your ego.
Yes.
Because there was no ego to begin with, right? Okay,
Right.
what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing?
Yeah. Like how do we fix it? Like how, and I think for so many ADHDers, where we get stuck is that self-flagellation of like assuming that like, oh my God, like, it was my fault that the Wi-Fi didn't work this morning. And that was why my internet kept freezing. And that's why we had to like figure out like, okay, how do we do this in person? Like, no, Rachel, you don't have control over the internet. Like you're a powerful lady, but you don't have that much power. Sorry.
Right. No, it is it's so true. It is that moment of like, wait, is this one of the four of us or is this Riverside? And what a relief that it's not one of them. I mean, it's like, no, this is Riverside.
Yeah.
Like, let go lightly. This is a thing you control.
We have to roll with that. And then it became such a happy accident because now we have this beautiful backdrop. You guys are in person. The energy is
no
much
longer
better.
in a closet.
It's awesome. It actually turned out way better. And sometimes in life when we do roll with stuff like that, it turns out better.
Way better.
Is it too dangerous or risky for us to say it always does? Because there's a little voice in my head that says, no, dose them with a little bit of reality.
Okay.
Sometimes it won't.
Sometimes it won't.
I think, maybe I overstated it, that it's not always better, but it is always the way it's supposed to be.
Oh, wait. Actually, Aaron, you didn't overstate it because you didn't say it's always. I just want to clear your name, my love. I think you actually said more accurately as you would as the coach. It might be, right? It may be better. It may turn out better. My devil's advocate was like, is it always? Or is it sometimes? And I think you're right. It will, that actually the total summation, the fully 360 inclusive statement is, it will be what it's supposed to be.
Correct.
But if you fight it from becoming that is suffering, right?
Yeah.
Well, and this is another thing that I always bring to my clients as their coach is non-attachment. Non-attachment to outcome.
Yeah.
And so, like when we were having all those technical issues, I was like, okay, like if today isn't the day that we're supposed to do this podcast, it's fine. Like we'll figure it out.
Flash forward 3 hours later,
right, exactly.
and they had an extension cord, and Rachel's line to me before you guys got on was, "See, it was supposed to happen today."
It was.
and that's not like, for our listeners, that is both us being a bit woo-woo, but also being very practical adults.
Yes.
Like that's a really sweet thing that we say to each other as adults when, like, okay, I know, like, this is the stressful version of what we set out to do today, but it seems the stars are telling us that today is in fact the day. So let's keep marching forward.
And if we can let go of those outcomes, like you were saying, Rachel, it takes that pressure off ourselves to say it had to be a certain way. It's like, I'm existing with life. I'm being with this moment, however it unfolds, and I'm going to be okay. I'm choosing to be okay. If today is not the day, it's okay. It'll happen.
Oh my God, you almost made me cry again, Aaron. I'm choosing to be okay. Like that's a hard one. At 34 and older, that's a hard one because life is so stakey.
It is.
So it says very beautiful sentiment to say that.
Yes.
You can choose to be okay. You don't have to, dude, you nailed it. You don't have to choose to be happy.
Right.
But you can choose to be okay. That feels very big to me.
Yeah.
And so many of the big things we have put out there don't really matter as much.
Right. I think that non-attachment to outcome is such a useful reframe of the cognitive rigidity that we often feel as ADHDers, as neurodivergent folks in general. It's that sense of like, okay, but like if XYZ things didn't work out, then ABC things must be true. No, the data is XYZ things didn't work out. That's it. That's all.
Oh my God, again, you're sounding like a producer on set. Like, talking to the actors, to the talent. Like there's always some artist who's having a panic attack. Like, wait, but the sun didn't set at the way that we said it was going to set yesterday.
Right.
And like the person in charge usually, hey, this is storytelling, baby. This is improv. Like we're rolling with it.
It's okay.
The movie's not dead.
Right. Right. Crazy things are going to happen.
Crazy things will happen.
We cannot foresee everything, but if we are like adaptable and flexy, and we don't come in with this super locked up mindset, we are way more able to roll with the punches than if we come in and we are super tense and attached to outcome. And, oh my God, well, my life has to look in this very specific way. Otherwise, I am a failure.
Yeah, it's also involved in becoming harder to escape. I mean, speaking for those of us here, but like, we don't have enough time, but social media makes this all there's so many little aspects of modern humanity that make what we're discussing it just feel like nitrous oxide's been pumped into it, like air injected.
Comparing ourselves to others we see and how they're living and what we assume they're doing or saying or how they're acting, which a lot of those assumptions are wrong.
Right.
Correct.
I mean, here's an area where we can be a little majority broad speaking, right? It's moments like this point in our conversation where I know I shared this with you guys, where I get furious with Facebook or furious with Instagram, right? Where I'm like, those fucking trust engineers, right? They've known for decades now that what they did was turn the heat from 2 to 10 on the volume knob for shame, and for self and for comparison and self-flagellation, guilt, those unhealthy comparisons. They just fucking ramped it from 20% to 100%. And neurodiversity makes it even more complicated.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I agree, Aaron. I think you add neurodiversity onto it, and the fact that most of these kiddos are between 14 and 24. And I think a lot of those assumptions are wrong. I think that they've built a virtual world around themselves.
Yeah. Well, and I think that goes back to the adulting thing, because like if we've never had the luxury and privilege of being like, okay, like what do I want my life to look like? What is adulting to me? How do I live?
You mean the luxury privilege of defining it in a formal way?
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Yeah.
If we've never had the luxury and privilege of being able to define it to ourselves, and we've just been running off the scripts that we've been given, and then we see all of this stuff on social media of like, oh yeah, there's this amazing, the crisscross applesauce chair. Do you remember this?
Crisscross applesauce chair?
Yeah. So it was a big thing on TikTok like a year and a half ago. And like all the content creators had one, and they were all like, oh my God, this chair is the best chair. And like, you got to get it. And it's great because you can sit crisscross applesauce in it.
Oh yeah. The meditation style chair kind of thing that,
without arms. Yeah. You can cross your legs. And it was also like an office chair. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, do I need that? Like, because I want to be able to sit crisscross applesauce in my office chair. That sounds great. But then
crisscross applesauce really makes this. This wouldn't be as absurdist and perfect if it weren't for the crisscross applesauce chair. Because like you're absolutely right. Wait, but I want to sit crisscross applesauce. What does that mean about me? Should I be sitting crisscross applesauce? Like they're very successful influencers. Is that's what missing from my social account?
Yeah. Will the magical mystery chair, once it arrives, like catapult me into the stratosphere of TikTok? No, it won't. No. But like, there's that consumerism, and then like, because impulsivity and slightly magical thinking that we often are prone to, we're like, oh, well, like, let me just throw it on the credit card real quick. And then it arrives and we sit in it, maybe for 5 days. And then we're like, actually, like this, I mean, it's just a chair, y'all. Like, it's not that, it's not all that.
May I share a similar story from like 3 days ago that I want you to coach on a bit? Like put your coach cap on for a second.
God, yes.
Yeah, okay. So a friend came to me, and I think this is going to ring for Aaron as well. I got, as a filmmaker, I got a text that I get pretty regularly. Hey, how did you make that look so good? Right. And infamously, I sent back to this person like the settings instructions with the carrots, but then at a certain point, it was like, then go to Carnegie Mellon and get an undergrad in this, and then go to USC and get an MFA in that, and then make sure it's 24 frames per second in cinematic mode. And I got a laugh, right? It's like, 2 degrees. But in all seriousness, another person came to me with this sort of like, I have some mobile cinema gear. Can you help me figure this out? A technical conversation about this second season of a vodcast she was doing. And what I found out within 8 to 10 minutes of talking is that this conversation had nothing to do with tech or gear. She, as an ADHDer, thought that it did. Literally, I'm going to go buy this thing because this is what the influencers use. This must be the difference.
Yeah.
Within 10 minutes of speaking with her, I divined and uncovered the fact that she actually has no idea what the show's about.
Oh.
And that really what she had called me into was to have a story science conversation, but she was using the safety of the little microphones, the little tech device, like get me to sit down with this person. So ADHDer comes in, goes, I'm not living the kind of life that I want to be living. Fantastic. And I think it's these lav mics. I find within a certain amount of time, it ain't that.
No.
What are your experience with the clients, the ADHD adults come in and go, I think this is going to change everything and solve everything?
I mean, sure, you can give that a shot, but is it the thing? What hopes and dreams are you expecting that lav mic to bring you? And by getting that lav mic, what if it doesn't work? Like, what if you go and you get the lav mics and, they are only average? Like, what are you actually looking for out of that lav mic to provide you that you don't already have?
And I think my impulse would have been higher quality. I would just want a higher quality.
Okay, yeah. So higher quality. What is wrong with the quality that you are currently working with? Have you been given feedback from other people that maybe your audio needs a little bit of work, or is this coming from an internal space?
Oh my God, so good. Does the audience hear how good? Like this, what we're learning from Rachel, and I know Aaron's nodding along, is like the process of self-reflection, right? The process of self-reflection, going internal and asking, wait. What is this? Why am I holding on so tightly to this lav, to this mic?
Yeah.
Right? What does this represent? And it was only 2 questions before we get to the like, oh, so you want higher quality. What does that mean to you? How is quality defined to you? Is it defined only by the technology? Or is it, for the listeners, that's almost exactly how the conversation went.
That's
actually.
Really funny.
And it was like by the 3rd or 4th question, I was like, oh, you're having deep issues with like, who cares about watching this? Like, what story are we telling?
Right.
Yeah, which feels very ADHD to me.
It does.
You get distracted by the object, the material thing, rather than what story are we telling?
Right. And also, we can almost like project issues onto the tech and the tools that are more like internal or like back of house questions. Because if someone is coming to you and being like, well, I feel like I'm losing audience members because, they don't think that the audio quality is high enough. Okay. Are they actually like clocking the audio quality, or is there an issue with like your engagement and ability to hold their attention? Are you insecure about that? Or like, do you have actual data to back up that fear? Because a lot of times we will take like scant amounts of data. Maybe we've looked at like the Spotify, because you can see on Spotify and things like that, where people tend to turn off podcasts and tend, and lose interest and press the X. And it's like, okay, well, you've got that information, but you're making a whole lot of assumptions. You're filling in letters and perhaps like whole words and sentences that maybe are not in play at all. Let's figure out like what actually you're doing, let's look at the podcast. Let's look at the structure. Let's look at the story that you're telling. And maybe the audio quality has something to do with that in like a holistic sense, but that's probably not all that there is. It's probably something deeper.
It's never the whole story.
Correct.
And a lot of times people see the surface level issues and they bring those up. They say, well, I need a planner. Or I need a system. I need a tool.
Right. I need a system.
The tool.
Yeah.
It's the tool. It's the app. It's the mics. That's what I'm saying. It's like this thing will change everything.
Yeah. And I think what happens is if the person is not ready to utilize that tool for whatever reason, if there's something else that's going on, that's not going to solve their issue. And a good coach will identify that. There's nothing wrong with having a planner or having some kind of productivity app system in place for stuff.
Yeah.
But there is a problem when you think that that's the end all be all. And when it doesn't happen consistently, when whatever the client tries this out, it's just not happening for them. They keep failing, keep letting themselves down.
Yep.
And they're like, this isn't working. And they point the finger at the tool, right?
Yeah.
But really, the way I look at this is I think like internal problems, if we can turn this back, the lens, if it's internal problems, they're never going to be solved with external solutions.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, our confetti cannons didn't go off. I had them rigged for that line. That's absolutely on point. Thank you, Aaron. That ties off exactly thank you for giving us an example of like what you would do with that human coming in and for closing us out with that summary of what it is, right? Person A, adult ADHDer comes in a classic way and says, I think this external thing is going to solve this internal problem.
Yes.
And coaches like Aaron and Rachel go, maybe not. Maybe
we hope shine the light on the real issue, right?
Yeah.
To bring in the porch light.
Yeah, you bring in the porch light.
Thank you.
Oh, that's another. Ooh, Aaron. I was gonna be all romantic about it as like swamp life, but no, like that's your spotlight. The porch light is your spotlight.
Yes, exactly.
To bring someone out of the darkness onto your porch into the light, and let's really analyze.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
That's exactly the thing. And I think that environment is where we can start to unpack what being an adult means and what our values are and where we actually want to go once we wrap up that meeting on the porch. It's like, okay, we've all had the experience of having an amazing conversation with a friend, in a dive bar, on a porch in somebody's backyard, out in the swamp at midnight. And then like going home and waking up the next morning and feeling so energized and like, oh my God, like I just want to keep jamming on that thing that we talked about. And
it's exactly right.
That's how that happens.
That is so human, Rachel.
That's how we started this company. Right?
Yes, that's exactly
in New Orleans
on a
at
sidewalk.
A dive bar.
Yeah, yes.
At a CHAD conference in 2016.
The reason I was getting teary-eyed is for that exact reason, Aaron. The city may be teaching us something that humanity could benefit from at large. That's the vibe I'm getting. Writ large, humanity might benefit from something the city teaches you inevitably when you move here. And I'm going to say it. New Orleans is famous for its adults knowing full well that they are just kids in a trench coat.
Correct.
That we are grown-up children. Mm-hmm. New Orleans says to you, you may be 40, you may be 50, you may be 60, but you are really just a 12-year-old in your dad's suit.
Yep.
And we pull it out at Mardi Gras, we pull it out at Jazz Fest. We embrace our inner child, our inner silliness.
And like when that's the vibe, going back to that idea of masking that we hit on, I take great comfort in the fact that no matter how unmasked I am, even if I'm, running around, stimming my brains out, like doing whatever I need to feel good in my own skin, I will not be even close to the weirdest thing that a French Quarter bartender has seen that day. And I think like that is how we sort of start to shed that projection of what being an adult means and starting to figure out and define what it can mean for us and redefine it in a way that actually makes sense. That feels like our costume instead of our mask.
I love this idea of like adulting in a city full of grown-up children.
Yeah.
Like going to the city of grown-up children to learn how to adult.
No, literally, but that's, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what a beautiful irony in ADHD, both in ADHD and in New Orleans. Like New Orleans says, hey, ADHDers, come to a city of grown-up children to learn how to ADHD adult.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it's all about accepting yourself when it comes down to it. It's what it is.
Yes.
How do you live more authentically and be more of who you are?
You're 100% right, because kids don't self-judge. That's that's the illusion we're all making, is that
we
kids
lose it.
Do not self-judge. We lost that openness, that just pure curiosity.
Yeah.
We lose it in the modern Western tradition as adults. Not down here.
Nope.
If you could leave us with one thought about how to accept yourself, or how you've accepted yourself, right? Either for our listeners in a broader sense, or for you, how you've accepted yourself, what would you say?
So when you are grappling with these questions of how to accept yourself, accepting where you are, both literally and metaphorically, is the starting point, and being really fucking honest about where you are, who you are, what you want, and where you want to go. Because if you are not being honest with yourself about those 4 tenets, you're just going to stay stuck. And to get unstuck, coaching is a fantastic way to help you get unstuck. Talking it out with somebody who provides that container for really deep, radical honesty, that is very effective for a lot of folks. And if folks are interested in finding out more about that, my website is welcometotheporchlight.com. And my TikTok is icebox.plums. And
what?
Icebox.plums, like the William Carlos Williams poem.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
And I'm on Instagram at porch.light.coaching.
I'm honored by you always. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, guys.
You and Aaron have that quality that I think, and I'm going to say this with some boldness, I believe that all coaches should have, and therapists, which is that ability to say in a common tongue something masquerading in a common tongue that is actually profound. And the poetry and metaphor comes right at the end, which I love. And the two of you do this thing. So thank you both for existing. Thank you for moving here. New Orleans embraces and welcomes you to this weird place.
Yes.
And you have made it weirder in a cool way.
I am very happy to have done so. It is my great honor to have made it weirder.
Well, thank you, Rachel Ambrose. This has been the Attention Different podcast. My name is Steven.
And I'm Aaron Smith.
And we are the co-founders and creators of Attention Different. Please tune back in for a whole host of special guests like Rachel here. And if you are coming down to New Orleans, hit us up. We'll show you a good time.
We will.
Make sure to like, follow, subscribe. Attention Different, Porch Light Coaching. A lot of cool people helping ADHD.